First, let's start with some context. So, number one would be how long has your church been in existence?
So we just celebrated our 9-year anniversary.
Okay. And you've been on staff how long?
Whole time, I got to help
Okay.
pastor. Yes.
And how long in the seat of executive pastor?
1 year,
Okay. And just for timelines, how long ago did this project start?
2 years.
Okay.
Our lead pastor is very visionary, so he's always a year or two ahead of the rest of us in his conception.
Hmm.
So he was probably on it before that,
Okay.
but really actively 2 years. We're shopping, we're asking questions, looking around town of what it would mean. We were leasing because our first, real space that was ours was obviously leased.
Okay.
We were going to
So
raise our
was,
rent. That was what
yeah.
that was what really pushed it, probably about 18 months ago.
Hmm.
Well, no, still about 2 years ago. That was what really pushed it, is our lease is coming due or up for renewal, and they're gonna raise our rent significantly. And it
Okay.
did not feel like right stewarding to continue to rent when we could, yeah, we're gonna have to get a loan and do all that, but then our payments were gonna be essentially the same.
Okay. So let's talk about scope for a second. So I know you weren't sitting in the XP seat at the time, but do you have any idea what the scope initially looked like versus where did it land? Meaning we started with maybe we'll do this, but we got this, or vice
You're talking
versa.
about size or amount of money, either
Either
one.
way.
I know the numbers we were first talking about is there's no way we could go above 8 million. Like 8 million is the absolute most we could spend on this project. We're not going above 8 million. When all was said and done, I mean, we're at 15.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
went double what we said we would never go over. But God provided the giving in that time, both through regular tithes and offerings and special giving. So it worked out, but that was definitely probably a very big change that happened over the course of those 18 to 24 months.
So what were the increases in cost? Was it just because of change orders and improving what you got? Was it additional square footage? Like what that's a big difference between 8 and 15.
Yeah, we ended up with some more square footage than we were originally looking for too, but now we know we needed it.
Mm-hmm.
What was coming. I think we were probably just naive about what things cost to begin with.
Yeah.
That was a stretch to say we could only do 8 million. We didn't realize how much of a stretch that really was in the city of Colorado Springs and what things cost. So yeah, that was probably just really naive number to begin with.
Fair enough. All right, and you just alluded to it a little bit. You said now that we know what we know as far as square footage goes. So you've been so this was a new building, right?
Yeah.
Like you how close to the old facility?
Well, thankfully the facility we found was right down the road. So we're less
Okay.
than a mile from our other space.
So did you so you don't do anything on the old property, right? It was leased. You guys let
Right.
the lease go, build a whole new facility, one location,
Yep.
right?
And we remodeled a new, what was a Budweiser plant.
Okay.
It's an empty box, as far as a remodel goes. Um, but that's what we were looking for. We wanted something already existing. We did not want to do a new build because that
Hmm.
would have been even more expensive. I mean,
Right.
easy expensive. So looking for that rebuild. We needed parking space though. So a lot of industrial style buildings that are empty boxes don't have parking because they're not designed for people.
Hmm.
So we felt God's favor in that we found a building so close to our old building. A lot more square footage than we were originally looking for now. And honestly, Jeff, I'd have to look up those numbers. I could send them to you later. I'm
No,
terrible
no.
with numbers, but I'll tell you the square footage some of the places we were looking at versus what we got. And it's obviously a lot more. That's why that number jumped up. But the biggest thing was the parking lot here. It's
Hmm.
just crazy that we have a parking lot that could hold as many cars or whatever for us to have a 1,000 seat worship center. Um, but that's at its max. Really, our max probably is about 750. The parking lot allows us to park 750 people, rough estimate. So that's what we needed, and so that is why we ended up going after this building.
Okay, so back up to 2 years ago, and you guys are starting to renovate this facility. Are you thinking, hey, we're gonna walk in, we'll all be in one service, it'll be good to be all back together again? Or was it like, hey, we're gonna be in multiple services and we already know that?
So we were at three services. We were so
Okay.
excited because we were coming and we are going to be able to just do two services in the new building. First weekend, it was insanity. There were so many new people. We pumped it up a lot. We're big on promoting it, and so
Hmm.
we did that to ourselves on purpose, and God brought them. But we started with a third service immediately the next week because
And
we
how
needed.
many do you have today?
And so now, almost a year after making the move, we're pushing 3,000, and so we're looking at adding a fourth Sunday night service.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Um,
would, as you look back, obviously the project, I would say it's done. Projects are never done, right? Like it's just it is what it is. Are there things that you'd look back and say, I'm really glad we did this as far as like scoping the project, or things that you would say, I wish we'd have done this differently?
um, yeah, there's always going to be little things. Parking, I mean, kind of saw it, but we didn't know fully just how much it was going to limit us. And we're
Hmm.
kind of trapped now in this space. There's no adjacent properties or things like that that are going to be available to us for more parking. So our only solution is to add services. Um, but other than that, we did plan well for our children's spaces. We have plenty of space for that to grow. Parking's really our ceiling. And one of the things, again, foresight that we did that I would never have done any other way is invite this school partnership. Um, it's just so comforting to know that we
Hmm.
have that partnership, and it's a long-term partnership for sure, financially, legally, everything. At least 7 years, if not longer, depending on how different factors. But that's the first section of our lease with them. But that's enabled us to do this, having rental income from them. Eventually, we want to get to a point where our tithes and offerings are taking care of our bills, and we can put that school income, that rental income, to pay down the loans.
Hmm.
Our pastor has a bold vision to get out of debt in 10 years. So that's what we're going after.
Yeah. But it is pretty awesome, especially for hyper analytical guys like me who think, this is already a new venture. Like to have somebody that says, yeah, we want to partner with you and contribute towards that. Like, okay, like sign them up.
I don't know if our story was unique, but to your first question about just scope too, I do think something else that happened. We had phases originally, like we're going to do
Mhm.
this phase one, and then we're going to move in and figure it out, and we'll do this phase two. But it just became pretty apparent pretty quick that if we could, the best thing was to get as much of it done as possible on the front end. And now
Mhm.
I'm so glad that we did that. So like we added a second venue, and we had that done. It was about 6 months after we moved in, but it was still pretty quick that we got after that and got it done. Building out a cafe and some extra bathrooms for our kids' rooms. Those were things that we originally were like, we'll get to it if we can.
Yeah.
I'm just glad we hung on to those and didn't like settle because we needed them. And
Hmm.
I'm glad we have them now.
Yeah. Well, that's smart. Okay, so talk to me about like management of the project, management of timelines. Like whose baby was that? Was
I mean, we had a owner's rep who I feel like did a lot. We didn't have a project manager per se for anything specific. And that was a little bit before my time, before I was in this seat.
Hmm.
So I don't know exactly how things started. Our lead pastor was very hands-on. Probably in a different scenario, an exec pastor would do what he did, but
Hmm.
he has a mind for those things and the relational skills for those things. So he was very hands-on. He probably would have been the project manager if anybody had that title, from everything to paint colors, um,
Yeah,
to
so he was involved in all the things like design and just yeah, okay.
he was very hands-on. And in some ways that may obviously it was very taxing on him. It was a very long and hard and exciting year for him. But it probably made a lot of things easier though too, because then he's communicating directly with the staff and then eventually the whole church about things like he knew everything that was going on.
Hmm.
There was no confusion or people trying to go two different directions.
So
Um,
that's pretty unique. I can't say that I've heard of a senior pastor being kind of at the lead of that, but would
I
it
think
have
it's
worked with
church.
anybody else in that seat?
It's his church planner DNA. I
Yeah,
also don't know
okay.
how usual it is for a church our age to do this. on this scale.
Yes, I can't argue with that.
So he's still got like that's who he is. He started a church 10 years ago. We were sitting in his living room. So he just wants to be in all the things.
Hmm.
Yes, that should
Okay.
be for now. But yeah, he's got now. So I became the executive a year ago, but we actually have two other executives now too. So team executive model is what we're going for. That's a different
Hmm.
conversation. But
Yeah. No, but yeah,
there was
I'm
nobody
familiar.
but him at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Talk to me about funding the project. I know you talked a little bit about you have a school that's going to contribute some of that as well, but back when you're looking at $8 million and for a church that was in a house, it's like, oh my goodness, we went from a house to a rented facility to $8 million loan. What? So,
Yep.
well, how did you fund it? And was it from a single source? Obviously, I have access to your financials, so I know these things. But yeah, kind of share what that looks like for you guys.
Yeah, we worked with a lender called the Solomon Foundation that is exclusively church plants, and particularly they're in our tradition, the Restoration Movement. So those are specific churches that they want to fund and they look for. So we went to a couple of organizations. There's Church Development Fund, there's some others, but the Solomon Foundation was honestly they gave us a chance where I'm not
Hmm.
sure that other lenders would, based on our numbers. And so we also worked with Generis
Hmm.
to for our initial campaign because the Solomon Foundation needed to see a certain amount of seed money. Uh,
Hmm.
and so Generis helped us be really professional with that. We did a very professional, high level campaign for 6 weeks, and our lead pastor is also just really good at casting vision. And so we didn't know how it was going to affect even our attendance because you're talking about numbers.
Hmm.
Those 6 weeks, we were ready for attendance to go down, for some criticism or complaining. And just the opposite happened. Everybody got so excited and gave more than we thought. So that initial seed goal, like it was 2 million, just to have 2 million cash in the bank. Uh,
Hmm.
After 6 weeks of teaching, his theme was plus one. We just talked about one, just one more, talking about getting people into the kingdom. And so that was his whole theme. But yeah, we ended up with I think like 2.3 million in the bank. So people just really got on it and even did more than we thought they would. So that was a good start. But Generis having some professionals help you with campaigns like that was really good. I think we could if we win or not, yeah, win, not if we do more campaigns. We learned a lot from them on how to do it well. So
So you definitely do a campaign again if for your congregation, if you had to
we're
do
already
a
planning one.
project.
Yeah, we're already
Yeah.
planning it because of improvements we want to make to this building and parking we might need and things like
Yeah.
that. So it's, I don't know, it's something I used to be nervous about, but I'm starting to see campaigns more as an opportunity to activate people's faith even
Hmm.
than a burden. It depends on how you do it.
Yeah.
Because just when people get excited about giving to something, guess what? They're also excited about praying about it. They're excited about talking to people about it. It's about more than the money. And so that's something I learned, I think, through the whole thing is that building campaigns can be such an opportunity to activate people's faith in a way that we wouldn't have otherwise. It literally wouldn't happen.
Yeah. If done well, I would agree. I think having Generis be a part of that and a partner in that, like that is, because if you and I are a part of a church and we say, yeah, we need to do a capital campaign, you and I go figure out what that messaging ought to be and what that looks like. I'm not certain that I would contribute a ton to that, right? Like that's not my wheelhouse. And
Yep.
so, yes, I've seen them do a fantastic job in many areas. So it doesn't feel like, hey, we're just coming to you for money. No, we're trying to cast the vision of where this
Yeah.
is headed. And yeah.
Yeah, I think those two factors combined, the fact that we were able to go to the Solomon Foundation with that seed money and like Generis and all that they helped us with, and the school partnership in the works contract. Once we had those two things in place, Solomon Foundation was like, "Oh yeah, we'll take a risk on you guys." And then we went back to them a couple times asking for increases, and they
Mhm.
kept saying yes.
Yeah. Okay. So if you had an executive pastor sitting across from you that was about to go through, I would say a similar situation, they're never the same, right? Like they're all
Right.
different. They all have their own curveballs thrown in there. But if you were going to give them one thing to avoid, just overall in a project that you're looking at doing, and one thing that you feel like make sure you do, like what are those?
I think we shouldn't be afraid to spend money.
Hmm.
We're us on quality contractors, quality vendors, quality materials, everything. I don't think you're going to regret. I was going to say you're never going to regret spending money on quality things, but you might actually if you get in over. So maybe
Right.
that's not the best
No,
way
no,
to do that,
but I
but
understand what you're saying.
as opposed to the other way around, you spent money on something and you cut corners, you went cheap, and then 6 months later you have to do it all over again. And so, staffing wise, maybe something else I would speak to is just to be really wise, anticipate what a difficulty it's going to be for a lot of staff. For us as a small staff, I mean, it was all of us. We were all hands on deck all the time. People operating out of their wheelhouses, people working nights and weekends, but some more than others.
So give me an
You're
example of what that looks like.
so our AV and our tech guy, he was here all the time. Literally, sometimes late into the night, going home to sleep for a couple hours and coming back, especially at key moments in the project. He was overseeing a lot of installing cables and wires
Hmm.
and everything. So his was a position that was really so our lead pastor tried to like he gave us all an extra week off after we moved in, after everything was done. But then it's also like ministry is still happening, stuff is still happening, and then the growth and the people are coming. So we constantly fight with that, but just to try to be really wise about how much we're asking of people because it was
So,
hard. It was a really hard season, and we lost a couple good people out of it. And it's largely due in part to how much was being asked of them in that season. And
yeah,
they felt like it was never going to end.
I
So,
get that.
yeah.
Kind of feels that way when you're in it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so today the project is essentially that phase of said project is done. So what's next, right? You guys have something else already in the works, and it's what are we working on now?
Well, so adding a service is our next biggest thing. We have 3 Sunday mornings. We need to add this fourth one for Sunday night. We're just out of parking. And so we've got people who literally turn away because they can't get a parking spot. But we have enough room for them in our worship center and in our children's spaces. So if we could solve the parking problem, we wouldn't need to do this. But we're going to go ahead and add the fourth service. Like I mentioned before, our lead pastor is always about a year or two ahead of us, so we are looking at a second campus. Um, I don't know when, I couldn't tell you a timeline, but that's definitely on our minds too.
Yeah,
Will be opportunity just like this property kind of was, but he's not afraid to go out and look for opportunity either.
yeah, that's awesome. No, thanks for sharing that. Like I said, when you step into an XP seat, you have to wear so many hats, and so many people expect you to be an expert in so many different things. And I mean, most people within their first couple years haven't had to walk through a project like this before,
Yeah,
but they'll have to before I would say within the first 5 years, most of them have to. So anything that we can do to help equip and give them information that might be helpful for them in their journey, albeit they will all be unique,
yeah,
right? But if there's little things that they can learn from folks who sit in the seat like you do, it's just super helpful. So thanks for thanks for jumping in and sharing.